Hello and welcome to fashion, or culture rather. The fashion world and its striking images, shows and grand openings gets quite a lot of coverage from the media, but we don't often talk about those who cover the fashion beat and what the future holds for those journalists who travel the world to cover luxury and high fashion. Jessica Michault, the online editor for the International Herald Tribune, is here to enlighten us now on those who write the words that go with those beautiful images. So Jessica, first up, what does the future hold for fashion editors and journalists?
Well, I think the general consensus out there in the world is that fashion journalists live a very glamorous life filled with beautiful people wearing beautiful clothes and going to beautiful locations, air kissing each other, saying darling all the time. But in fact, it really is a multi-million-dollar business where a critique from a fashion journalist saying they didn't like a show can really detriment sales for that season, or possibly cause the future of the company to be in peril, or a designer being kicked out of a house. So they have a lot of power. Journalists like Suzy Menkes from the International Herald Tribune, Virginie Mozart from The Figaro, and Anne-Lynne Rocati from Le Monde are really high-respected journalists who really have an independent spirit and really stand on their own 2 feet. These are women who aren't afraid of being banned from shows for saying what they think, or worried about pulling advertising from their magazines or newspapers because of their reviews.
But isn't this exactly the problem, that they can't write positive or they can't write anything negative because they're advertisers, they're used as advertisers?
Well, I mean, this is the hard part about the business. It's there are journalists out there that feel the pressure to measure their words in relationship to the people who are advertising in their magazines, or they've been wooed by different fashion brands with free gifts, or travel around the world to different locations and fashion shows. There is a feeling that they have to measure what they say.
So how can a journalist or a reviewer give an honest review if they've received one of these gifts?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are some people who have a strict policy of not receiving gifts, so that's very clear. But there are some who argue the fact that the policy is so widespread, there's so many gifts given to all the different journalists, that it actually negates the factor completely. And then the arrival of bloggers of the last few years who don't have the financial backing of an institution like a newspaper or a magazine are very upfront about the fact that they're going to be paid for the trip that they're going on, that they're reviewing on their blog, or that the pair of jeans that they were reviewing was on their blog was something that they got for free to test out. One great example is Brian Boy, the blogger, one of the biggest fashion bloggers out there now. He put out on his blog, raved about a coat that the designers at Dolce & Gabbana gave to him as a gift, and he wore it to the fashion show, and said it was a wonderful thing. So he's very straightforward and open about the fact that he had received a gift.
But what about what happened to Karine Reutefeldt? Mm-hmm. That person was banned by Balenciaga this season. Is this something to do with this gift giving?
Well, that's a good question. That doesn't seem to be the case. It looks like what happened was, Karine Reutefeldt and French Vogue and also Balenciaga are really not talking. Karine says it's a shame. It's such a great house that she wasn't invited. But their speculation is that there are people at French Vogue that have do consulting work for different fashion brands, and Balenciaga took up issue with that they couldn't be impartial if they were getting paid by different houses to give them advice for their fashion in the future.
So what about this future then, the future for fashion journalists? Will you and many other fashion journalists be able to keep your independence?
Well, it's a little shaky, the future. If you look at this article from Le Monde that came out a little earlier this week, it talks about the fact that there's a new software system out there that's being used for the moment for sports, where you plug in a few key names and a few key phrases, mm-hmm. and out pops a fully formed article. There's already working on a process for this for economic journalists. And I can't imagine
they would do it for all of us.
Well, it's possible that the fashion journalists will be there in the end, and then there won't be any question about whether or not you're having a biased opinion, because there's no opinion whatsoever, because it's a computer that's writing the piece.
And that sounds like a bit of science fiction, doesn't it? I mean, did the bloggers have as much of an impact on shows as last season because of that?
Well, the fashion, really moves quite quickly. And last season, it was all about the bloggers sitting in front row. This season, something new has caught on. Both bloggers and fashion journalists like myself have really got into Twitter and sending up tweet photos. So you can see a number of photos that I took here running on the screen over the last few shows. And in particular, a great example of one of the ones I took was a photo I took of a look from Alexander McQueen's last presentation. I put that up on Twitter, and it was out into the universe, went viral. Hundreds of people retweeted it onto their own websites out into the universe. So that was really quite impressive.
So how does the kind of fashion tweets and photos, how does that affect journalism in the future? Is it maybe just all about speed?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's true. I was kind of really surprised to see how many people were reusing my images on their website. So after the shows were over, I was seeing a lot of people blogging and using my images as artwork for their shows, and it made it feel like those bloggers were actually at the shows. I think in the future what we're going to be seeing with the Twitter and the tweet photos is that as that becomes to be something that can be monetized, as the technology get better, you get better photos, not so blurry, you're going to see more and more companies thinking there's money to be involved there and you can actually make some cash, maybe, marketing your Twitter photos. And when you see a brand like Women's Wear Daily sending out articles talking about the best Twitter and tweets and Twitter pics, you know that this is looking to be a whole new area of fashion journalism for the future. Very short, sweet fashion journalism, but fashion journalism
and
for sure.
And you still need people to take those pictures.
Absolutely.
So it just might be evolving.
Absolutely.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much indeed for that. We'll see you at the same time again next week.
Pleasure.
Now, Steve McQueen, Sam Taylor-Wood, Julian Schnabel, just some of the artists who've made some pretty decent movies, but it rarely works the other way around, except in the case of Japanese filmmaker Takeshi Kitano, for whom it's just one more expression of his restless intelligence. Alongside his work as a comedian, filmmaker, actor, TV presenter and poet, a selection of Kitano's paintings are now on display at Paris's Fondation Cartier.
Jack of all trades, master of them all. Takeshi Kitano, also known as Beat Takeshi, is a film director, but also actor, television presenter, writer and painter. The Cartier Foundation in Paris is exhibiting some of the many facets of his artwork, paintings, videos, but also a collection of bizarre and unusual creations. A kaleidoscope of his work, born of the imagination of this curious self-made artist who got little support growing up, especially from his mother.
I disobeyed her a lot. I dropped out of university, and for my earliest childhood I was always lying to her. So it's very strange for me, obviously. It's almost funny, really, that I'm showing my paintings to the Cartier Foundation, though in my childhood my mother stopped me from painting. I imagine that were we rich today, she was thinking the same thing. She must find it a bit of a joke, really.
A joke that tells of Kitano's fascination tainted with nostalgia for the world of childhood, with unorthodox theories explaining the extinction of dinosaurs, the story of a criminal who escapes hanging, and wind-making machines. Best known for his films outside Japan, Kitano had his directing debut in 1989 when the director of a film he was starring in fell ill.
And my work as a comedian, as an actor, as a TV presenter really encouraged me to accept this rather surprise opportunity. I think I had already got enough experience to do this, and that's why I said yes.
Visitors enter the exhibition as they would another world, one where art is considered much too important to be left in the hands of people who take it seriously.
Well, for more culture from around the world, you can have a look at our website. That's france24.com, france24.com, where you'll also find all the latest news headlines, including the very latest on the French policeman who has been shot dead just east of Paris. That's by a suspected ETA attack. There'll be more news here from us in the newsroom in just a couple of minutes. Do stay tuned.